What is going on, Isles fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video for Up the Turnpike. I want to go over some Islanders injury updates with you. There will be some changes coming to the lineup and figured that we would break it down. So let's get it started with Simon Holmstrom, who was officially put on injured reserve by the New York Islanders today. He has an upper body injury and hasn't played since the Penguins game on December 29th. He's missed the last couple of games. And honestly, this has turned into a pretty big loss for the Islanders. No timetable yet on his return. It's not LTIR, so I guess that could be spun as a good thing. But he initially started off as day-to-day, and after missing a few games, he goes on injured reserve, which creates a roster spot. We'll talk about how the Islanders adjusted. But honestly, this has been a pretty big loss because I think he's carved out a really nice role on this team. You look at his first full year in the league last year, started out okay and then really tailed off towards the end, but he's been productive. 22 points in 37 games, a pace of 49 points and 20 goals over a full season, and is a reliable penalty killer. I know the PK isn't great, so maybe I'll get some pushback on that, but you need guys like Simon Holmstrom in your lineup, pretty good defensively. It's a big loss, and especially when you look at how the Islanders have to pivot because of it, the lineup, there's no questioning that the lineup unfortunately gets worse. Mike Riley was also placed on LTIR. We haven't seen Mike Riley in a really long time. He had the heart condition this year, had the surgery, got everything fixed in that department, which is obviously most important. But he was skating earlier, which came as a surprise at the time, but putting him on IR or LTIR, excuse me, opens up an additional $1.25 million in cap space for the New York Islanders to work with. What they will do with that cap space is TBD, obviously, but this seems like the move. I would be surprised in a way if we see Mike Riley anytime soon. And this move clearly, obviously, is creating cap space, although by putting someone on LTIR, you can't then accrue cap space as the year goes on, but I don't think the Islanders are really going to be in a spot where they're looking to buy and add more to this team, which is why teams like to do the cap gymnastics to accrue as much cap space as humanly possible for the trade deadline. But I don't think it'll have that much of an impact on the Islanders at the deadline. So as a result, Grant Hutton was called up for the New York Islanders to replace the roster spot of Simon Holmstrom. He's played in 12 games this year for the Islanders. He's averaging 14 minutes and 9 seconds of ice time per game, has 2 points in those 12 games. Right shot defenseman. I wouldn't necessarily expect him to come in and play, but he was an extra today for the skate. We'll go over the lines at the end. But they clearly need some depth. They don't have anybody else right now. We'll talk about why that is. Dennis Cholowski has to enter into the lineup right now. More injury news coming up in a little bit here. But Grant Hutton will serve as the extra. And if he does have to come in and play, well, then someone's going to have to play on their offside. They've done it before. They've had two righties paired together at times this year. It's not ideal. It's not something that the Islanders really want to do, but they don't have a ton of options. Sticking on the defense side, Isaiah George still not skating after taking an elbow from Max Domi in Toronto. Domi got fined for the hit, but there was no penalty called in the game. And George hasn't skated yet, isn't expected to play. I don't know how long he's going to be out for. They haven't put him on IR, so I guess that could be looked at as a positive for now, but this is just something we're going to have to monitor and keep a close eye on. As a result, Dennis Cholowski will remain in the lineup on the left side, and this is what the lineup looked like today. So forward group, Lee, Nelson, Barzal, Duclair, Horvat, Palmieri, Siplikov, Pajot, Cizikas, Martin, McLean, Engvall, Romanov, Dobson, Pelech, Polak, and Cholowski, Mayfield, with Hutton as the extra, Sorokin and Hogberg as the goalies. So looking at the forward group first, Matt Martin enters back into the lineup. He is likely going to be a bit of a regular right now. Didn't see Hudson Fasching out there either for the skate. Don't love that. The Engvall, McLean, and Hudson Fasching line I thought was working a little bit as the fourth line. We talked about it a few times on post-game shows and on the podcast and in videos. So the fourth line is going to get another look. And Matt Martin has played the fourth line pretty much his entire career, but there's no denying I think the forward group gets a little bit worse with this lineup. On the D side, Romanov, Dobson, Pelech, Pulock, we've seen a lot of those guys together. Cholowski, Mayfield. Unfortunately, I've kind of liked Isaiah George with Scott Mayfield. I think it worked as a third pair for a little bit, and clearly would like to see him back into the lineup sooner rather than later, but Cholowski will have to hold it down for the time being. That'll do it for me on the Islanders injury updates. Let me know your thoughts. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll catch you next time.
If you like that, make sure to subscribe to Up the Turnpike on Patreon for more exclusive New York Islanders content.